But for 36-year-old Christine Lupinacci, mysterious symptoms came on gradually. In 1998, Christine was unstoppable.
I basically had the superwoman complex. I volunteered, I was involved in PTA, you name it, I did it.
She was the perfect mom. She was always involved, and we had a great relationship.
She definitely was the backbone of the family. You can always call her for anything, for advice. She was always there to help us out.
But in October of 1998, Christine starts to slow down.
I started feeling very fatigued. Just to walk to the mailbox started to become an effort for me. It was difficult to vacuum and washing the dishes or carrying laundry up and down the stairs. I'd have to take periodic breaks every 2 minutes, and I thought it was just coming down with a cold.
Christine visits her doctor, who tells her she has a common virus, mononucleosis, which just needs to run its course.
They told me it wasn't going to be a fast recovery, that mono takes a while, but they said each day I'll start to feel better.
But Christine only gets worse, and 6 months later, she begins to experience something strange.
My legs started swelling up, my ankles were swelling up, my fingers literally tripled in size.
Her fingers got so swollen that she couldn't take her wedding ring off. Sometimes socks wouldn't be able to fit over her ankles.
Each time I had inflammation, my temperature would go up. You could have fried an egg on any one of my joints.
It was so hot to the touch. It was like you put your hand on a damn stove.
I literally had to sit down by the frozen food section just to try to get my body to cool down, just to make it through the supermarket.
Christine's doctor doesn't know what's causing her strange symptoms, but he prescribes painkillers and anti-inflammatories. They don't work. Then, Christine notices another disturbing change in her body.
I started noticing that it literally hurt for me to open and close my eyes. I felt like there was sand in my eyes at all times. My mouth was constantly dry. I would go from 8 to 12 glasses of water a day.
Christine sees another doctor who diagnoses her with Sjogren's syndrome, a disorder often associated with arthritis that destroys the glands that produce tears and saliva.
Made sense. I thought, this is it. It was creating the joint pain, it was causing the inflammation, it was causing the dry eyes, the dry mouth. And again, I was on the medication for several weeks, and nothing changed.
Over the next year, Christine sees more doctors and is given a series of diagnoses, ranging from rheumatoid arthritis to anemia. But none seem to be accurate, and no medication offers relief from her pain.
Some people collect stamps, some people collect baseball cards, I collect misdiagnosis.
Every time I went to a doctor, it wasn't fixed. I said, why are her joints hot? You know, maybe she has arthritis. And then it was, well, she has Lyme's disease. Well, she has lupus. They didn't know the answer.
Soon, Christine begins to feel like she's losing control of her life.
The bills were piling up. I had lost employment at the time because I just couldn't work. The house was messy. Everything was affected.
She felt inadequate. She felt that she was letting her family down.
She wasn't herself anymore, and she was slowly deteriorating.
All I could think about was the pain, the constant pain.
For the past 3 years, Christine Lupinacci has suffered from intense pain and swelling in her limbs, fatigue, and dry eyes and mouth. Just as she thinks it can't get any worse, her symptoms take a whole new turn.
And she went from a size 7 to a size 20.
I thought she was pregnant. Her belly blew up so much that she looked like she was 4 or 5 months pregnant.
We just assumed that because she was sleeping so much, that she was being lazy and that she was just putting extra weight on.
I was having pains around my sides, shooting from my abdomen to my back. The way I described it was it felt like someone was sticking a knife in my back and slowly pulling it out.
A new doctor tells Christine that she has kidney stones and that they should pass in a few weeks.
I thought to myself, if this is what people with kidney stones experience every single day, I thought I was a wimp. I thought I was pathetic.
But these kidney stones never materialize.
And we were getting fed up. And it was just like, what's next? What else is she gonna have? And how could one person have all these different things wrong with them?
We just wanted to hear her happy and feel good, and we weren't getting that.
I felt like a burden to everyone. I felt pathetic. I was ashamed, I was embarrassed, and I wanted to give up, and I didn't blame my husband if he was going to give up and walk out the door.
March 4th, 2002. It's been 3.5 years since Christine's pain first began, and the worst is yet to come.
Because my abdomen had been growing in size, I always had periodic bursts of, let's take control, let's do something positive, let's feel good. And I had been exercising, and I just finished doing sit-ups and crunches and was talking to my family, and the pain started.
She leaned on the counter, and she said, damn, I feel horrible. I've got a sharp pain. My stomach hurts.
We didn't really take it too seriously. It was just kind of like a normal, everyday thing where she would take some aspirin and try to relax.
So I excused myself from the kitchen, and I walked upstairs. And as I got midway up the stairs, the pain was worse. I would say 100 times worse than both deliveries I've had with my children. And I thought I was dying right then and there. I screamed. My husband said that he'll never forget that sound.
All hell broke loose. She was crying, hysterical. We called the ambulance.
The pain was so severe that she actually blacked out at some point.
Christine is rushed by ambulance to the ER.
When I got the call and rushed to the hospital, she was lying on the gurney, gripping the bars on it. She was hysterical, but she was crying because of the pain she was in.
At this point, the doctor came in and said, we want to do a CAT scan, but there's no technician. So I said, well, what does that mean? Get a technician. He says, what I advise you to do, this was our doctor, is go home and bring her to the office in the morning. So I lost it.
My husband said, there's no effing way she's going home. There's no way.
I said, you're giving her Demerol, you're giving her needles with drugs, and it's not doing shit. I'm gonna go home with her like this. It's no way. I said, what are you out of? I said, are you out of your minds? No, she's not leaving here. She's staying here. You are gonna find out what the problem is.
Christine is kept in the hospital overnight, and first thing in the morning, her doctors order a CAT scan of her abdomen. When the results come in, Christine is told she needs to see an OBGYN immediately, but she's not told why.
Scared to death, not knowing really what to expect, this very large man who looked like a bouncer or a linebacker came walking into my hospital room, and he said with the sweetest face, "Hi, I'm Dr. Spataro."
I received a phone call from the emergency room stating that they were in need of a consultation for my services. I happened to be the obstetrician gynecologist on call that day.
And he says, "Well, my dear, we're going to make you feel better. You shouldn't be experiencing this pain." And I believed him. He was going to get to the bottom of it.
I explained to Christine that the findings on the CAT scan revealed a large, complex pelvic mass.
He believed that the daily pain that I was feeling had to do with this large, twisted mass.
From the scan, Dr. Spataro can see that the mass seems to have grown out of Christine's left ovary. What he can't tell is whether or not the mass is cancerous.
The bottom line is the only way for me to give her all the answers that we're really looking for is surgery at that point in time and get this mass out and really take a look and see what it was.
There was a beast in there, whether it was benign or malignant, I just wanted it out.
Doctors have found a large mass growing in Christine Lupinacci's abdominal cavity, and they don't know if it's cancer. 2 days after she's rushed to the ER, Christine goes in for a surgery to remove the mass.
That moment when she was getting rolled into surgery, she was scared. She was extremely scared, and so were we.
I was more fearful for my children. I was so afraid that they were going to grow up without a mother. It was frightening.
We made an incision which started just below her belly button, probably about 8 to 9 inches in length. When we got into the abdominal cavity, you already could see 2 parts of this mass. Both of these masses had grown from the left ovary. Probably through the course of exercising, she ruptured one of these masses, and that was probably responsible for the sudden onset of all the pain, which actually made her come into the emergency room.
Dr. Spataro removes the masses and sends them to the pathologist for analysis.
My first impressions were that it was a benign tumor. And we were getting ready to close Christine's incision. But just before we were getting ready to start with the stitches, the pathologist called me and told me Christine's tumor indeed was malignant. It was an ovarian cancer.
Ovarian cancer begins when cells in one or both ovaries rapidly divide and grow out of control, developing into a tumor. The tumor ultimately spreads and damages surrounding tissues or organs.
Christine's tumor was huge. It looked like it had spread quite well throughout her body. I realized that Christine was going to be facing a probable uphill battle. Christine had been counseled that if this wasn't ovarian cancer, we would have to also remove both ovaries with the cervix and her uterus.
A 1-hour exploratory surgery turns into a 6-hour hysterectomy. Dr. Spataro removes Christine's uterus, cervix, ovaries, and as much of the tumor as possible.
And then I went downstairs to speak to Gene in the lobby. And I pulled him aside into a dark corner of the lobby. I informed him of the diagnosis.
My knees gave out. I was on the floor.
I saw my brother-in-law's legs buckle. And right there, I thought that she died on the table. I thought, what am I going to do without my sister? Oh, God. She's my best friend. What am I going to do without her?
Part of me died that day. Something inside that was there is no longer there.
Christine is wheeled out of the OR into a recovery room. Hours later, she wakes up.
I was grateful to wake up, and I saw my daughters and my husband.
She was a mess. Tubes in her mouth. She says, "What happened?" And I said, Chris, World War III went inside of you. They took a lot of stuff out, a lot of bad stuff.
Dr. Spataro came in, and he told me that I had ovarian cancer. I felt like this huge burden was lifted off my shoulders. Sounds crazy, but in a sense, there was proof. I wasn't crazy. I had cancer.
Christine remains in the ICU for 11 days, recovering from the operation. She's surprised to discover that with the tumor gone, so is her pain.
The first time I stood up and the nurses had me walking in the hospital, if it wasn't for the staples and my incision, I would have definitely tried to have done a cartwheel, because every symptom that I had was suddenly gone.
All this discomfort that she had been going through this entire time, the back pain, the pressure, all these things probably were related to her pelvic tumor.
Although her tumor has been removed, Christine is not yet cancer-free. Dr. Spataro explains to Christine she'll need chemotherapy to destroy all the cancerous cells in her body.
Was this chemo going to work? What if I didn't make it? I'd catch my daughters kind of just looking at me. And I thought in my mind, they're trying to remember, they're trying to hold on to images of me, just in case I'm not here.
But after 7 months of chemotherapy, Christine gets the best news she could hope for. The cancer seems to have gone into remission.
And suddenly, instead of saying goodbye, I realized I would see my children's smiles tomorrow.
It's been 4 years since her operation, and today Christine remains cancer-free.
My sister's like she never had ovarian cancer. She's actually stronger, and her will to live and just her outlook on life is totally different.
I guess she feels she has a second chance.
But it was a close call. For months, it seemed that Christine had been diagnosed with everything but cancer. She and her family wonder why it wasn't caught earlier.
When we have a mass that's growing, let's say in a confined area, a small area, when it grows, it irritates tissues and nerves, which cause us to have pain. We realize something is going wrong. With ovarian cancer, these masses can grow so large before we realize that something is going on. We thought initially during the surgery that her chances of survival were 30% or less. But obviously, Christine is one that bucked the odds.
She's alive, and everything else is gravy.
Cancer has taught me to be the driver, to no longer take a backseat to my health, and to listen to my body. And I'm grateful for every single moment of every day. And life is good. Life is good. Life is good.
It took Christine collapsing in her own home for doctors to diagnose her with cancer.